What's up, guys? It's Jacob with the Degenerate Gambling Life, and we have another great episode for you today. Starting off, we're going to be talking about why rookies are being undervalued in redraft leagues on Yahoo. And the first guy we're going to look at is Malik Neighbors, who has an ADP of 6'11. So he's going in the sixth round at the 11th pick on average in Yahoo drafts. That's behind guys like T. Higgins and Stephon Diggs. And I think he's a much better value than those guys who are going earlier. I mean, when you look at Stephon Diggs, we don't know what his role is going to be in Houston. He was great in Buffalo, but he was tailing off at the end of last season, and there's two other dogs in that wide receiver room. And with T. Higgins, he has the kind of bad relations right now with the Bengals front office. The contract negotiations aren't going his way. And will he be distracted going into this season? I don't know, but I would rather just roll the dice on Malik Neighbors. Then we're going to be talking about Jaden Daniels with an ADP of 10.10. So he's going in the 10th round at the 10th pick. And this guy gives you a chance to get an elite player as your QB2. He's going behind quarterbacks like Jared Goff, who Goff is a very good quarterback, but he doesn't give you that rushing upside. And if Jaden Daniels does hit, he could end up being a top five quarterback overall because of that rushing upside. So I would definitely roll the dice. Next, we're going to look at the 10-11 Lad McConkey. That's his ADP right now. He's going pretty late in drafts on Yahoo, and I don't really understand it. He's going to be the top dog in the LA Chargers passing game in the slot role, where he should expect to see about a 30% target share. And I think that is a recipe for success when you have a quarterback as good as he does there in LA. Then turning to Keon Coleman, he's going at the 12-6 on average. The Bills' offense is still going to be a pass-first offense, and I really like Keon Coleman a lot. You get a guy who's going to be the top dog in the wide receiver room, and for that reason, I would definitely be drafting him when he's going in the same vicinity as guys like Jameson Williams. And finally, we have Brian Thomas Jr. at the 12-12. You can get him after A.J. Dillon and in the range of guys like Zach Charbonnet. And he's going to have a very clear role in that Jacksonville passing game, which is a pretty good passing game. And he has all the talent and tools to be a good receiver in this league. So I would definitely be rolling the dice on him.
This week's fantasy football debate is PPR versus half-point PPR, and I'm all about the PPR. Obviously, your pass catchers and pass-catching running backs are going to be more valuable, but that's what makes drafting and roster construction a little more strategic. You have to consider more than just the big play receivers who are going to catch 2-3 passes a game for 30 to 50 yards. You got to look at the slot receivers who are catching volume and the offensive schemes built around running backs who are catching the ball out of the backfield.
Jordan, full point PPR sucks. Just like the Bears, just like your 49ers, just like Chelsea. All right? Half point PPR makes pass catchers the top players the top, and it doesn't water it down. Example, Jarvis Landry. Let's go back in the time machine. There was a season he led the NFL in receptions with 112, and he did not crack 1,000 yards, but he was a tier one player. That should never ever happen. Nothing wrong with half PPR or even go back to standards. The whole reason why full PPR was created was because top running backs, such as LT back in the day, dominated so far ahead of the wide receivers. So we don't need to keep going crazy. Keep it half PPR or less.
Excuse me, sir. Would you like another hot take?
Yeah, definitely. Keep them coming.
All right, my hot takes this week are all going to be on the NFL. First up, the Houston Texans. They will regress. Doesn't mean that they're not a good team and tons of potential, but I just think they're going to take a step back and they will not make the playoffs this year. Next, the NFC East will only have one playoff team, and it is not the Dallas Cowboys. It will be the Eagles. Finally, the NFC North will be the toughest division in football. Yes, I'm a homer with the Packers, but they will only have one playoff team because it will not be like the AFC North last year where everyone's above 500. They're going to beat up on each other. They play some tough teams, and only one team, sadly, out of that division will be the winner of the division and make the playoffs. Hoping it's the Packers, but it could also be the Lions, who they're scary good. Gotta be honest about that. All right, take you away with your hot takes, Jordan.
Thanks, Josh. I got hot takes coming out of Spain this week, and two different sports. First, we're going to go with men's tennis, Carlos Alcaraz, who is 21 years old, fresh off of his 4th major title, 2 out of 3 this year. He's going for 3 out of 4 when the US Open rolls around in August. But this guy, he is the future of the sport. I've said it before, I'm saying it now. He's going to win 20 Grand Slams, which is insane to think about. Only 16 more to go. And over to soccer, we have Lamine Yamal. He just turned 17 the other day. His composure is incredible, and his passing and his vision on the field is insane, especially for someone his age. I see him winning a Ballon d'Or in the future. What do you got for us, Jacob?
Thanks, Jordan. And my hot take for the week is that the Cleveland Guardians made the best choice at number one, taking Travis Bazzana out of Oregon State. He batted .407 with 28 homers and a 1479 OPS last season. He projects to be an elite second baseman, which will allow the Guardians to move Andres Jimenez to shortstop and plug a big hole that they've had in the middle infield for a long time. This is an A-plus pick, and good job for the Guardians for not going cheap. Hopefully, Vizana will come up and help them return to the form that they had in the 90s, and this time they will get the World Series.
My hot take of the week is that these Chicago Cubs are going to pull it together these next few months and make the playoffs. They will be the last team in the NL to sneak in, and yes, their bullpen is atrocious and their bats have been pretty cold, but I think their starting pitching is strong enough. Summer is in full swing, so their bats can get hot. They just need to figure out that bullpen, maybe trade for a relief pitcher, and they could be right in the thick of it. Go Cubs, go.
This is a poker hand I played at Texas Card House in Austin, Texas. In this hand, a loose player opened to 15 in early position. He was pretty much opening every pot to 15 if it wasn't open before him. One player called, and I woke up on the button with ace-9 offsuit. I think calling would be okay here, but I think 3-betting is better, so I raised to 60, and only the original opener makes the call. The flop comes amazing for us. Ace, Jack, 9, Rainbow. We couldn't really ask for anything better. It checks to me, and I bet small here for $40, which I would do with my entire range, and he makes the call. The turn is a 7 of spades, bringing in the flush draw. He checks to me, and I'm going to go for value here again, so I bet $100, and this time he tanks and makes a very good fold, showing an ace. It would have been nice to get more value there, but we'll take it. This was a poker hand I played at Shuffle 512 in Austin, Texas. In this hand, the MP opened to $15. It folded to me on the button, where I woke up to Ace of Clubs and King of Diamonds and 3-bet to $50, and only the MP made the call. The flop came King of Clubs, Queen of Clubs, 4 of Diamonds. He checks and I continue for 60, and now he jams all in for about 215. I'm not really scared of too many value hands here except for pocket fours and king queen, and he's going to have a lot of flush draws here that are going to want to check raise all in to try to get me off a king or try to get me off, jacks or some kind of hand like that. So I make the call since I'm getting too good of a price to fold, and it turns out this time he does have a flush draw, and we hold on the turn in the river and win a nice pot.
Okay, we are playing at WinStar, and I'm on the button, and I look down at the monster 7 deuce offsuit. It'd been a pretty tight table, so I raise to 13, and we get 3 callers. The flop comes the ace of diamonds, the 9 of hearts, the 2 of hearts. Checks to me, and I see bet for 34, and everyone folds. I show my 7 deuce offsuit, and one of the players even said that they folded a weak ace. So again, that's where image, tight table really paid off. You can do this just about any hand, if you just try to play it like you did have aces or a monster hand. For instance, put everyone on ace king. But the whole point of that was loosen up the table, and it did pay off, and me getting a little bit more looser calls and people playing at me. So use that if you need to in the future. Poker hand number 2, we are still playing 1-2 at WinStar, and I look down at 7 of spades, and I call the earned gun plus 2s raised to $10, and so does 4 other people, so we go 6 ways to the flop. The flop comes the Jack of Clubs, the 7 of Clubs, the 6 of Hearts. Checks to me, and since the original raiser checked, I bet $23. One player calls. Now the earned gun plus 2 original raiser makes it 75. In the moment with the hand history, they've done a lot of check raises, especially with bluffs. and draws, so I make the call and the other player folds. The turn comes to 4 spades. Now the iron gun +2 checks. Further makes me believe they have a draw, so I check. The river comes, the jack of spades. Now the iron gun +2 bets 125. And with the top pair pairing, I go with my read that they had just a draw, and just from history and things I learned. I make the call, and they show a busted flush, and I scoop.
Soccer hooligans.
We're back with the added minutes, and I got some exciting news, at least exciting for me because I've been waiting for this to happen for a while. Greg Berhalter is out as the United States men's national team coach. He's gone. He's out of here. And especially after that poor performance in the Copa America, where the U.S. became the first host nation to be knocked out at the group stages. Yeah, it's time Berhalter was gone. He didn't even deserve the second stint, and I gotta say he's not a good tactician, and I was getting nervous after the exit from the Copa America because I thought they should have axed him the next day, but the United States Soccer Federation came out and said that they were looking into it. They were going to do their due diligence and go through their process of whether or not to keep him, and that was making me nervous. And the day that they announced it, I was so excited. I wanted to put the news out for you guys in a short, but I just couldn't keep it under a minute because this is such a monumental shift, especially in 2 years leading up to the World Cup here on home soil. We needed somebody else, but that leads us to who is going to be the man to lead us. They reached out to Jurgen Klopp, and he was never coming here. Let's be honest. Jurgen Klopp, this was a dream. This was basically a PR stunt of U.S. soccer. Sure, I guess you could say you had to ask him, but did you really have to ask him if you knew that he wasn't going to come? The man said that he was tired. He needed some time off. Not only that, but he is a caliber of coach that the United States men's national team doesn't really draw interest from. We're not there yet as a footballing nation, as a soccer nation. We're just not there. We can't get coaches like that. So, who are we looking at? Well, there's Jesse Marsch has been floated around. He was already passed over for the coaching job to bring Greg Berhalter back the second time. He is coaching Canada's national team, so I don't see him leaving that to come back to the U.S., especially after he was stiffed out of the job like that. And Canada just made it to the semifinals of the Copa America, so that was big. They're also looking at 3 MLS coaches, which I'm not a big fan of. I don't want an MLS coach to come and bring that style of play to the United States men's national team for this upcoming World Cup. But if we're being honest, that's kind of the pool that we have to draw from because, as I said, we're not a huge footballing nation. We can't draw those huge names. Those coaches are Jim Curtin, who's currently the Philadelphia Union head coach, Brian Schmetzer, who's the Seattle Sounders coach, and Steve Cherundolo, who used to play for the United States men's national team and is currently the LAFC coach. Who do you guys think that the United States men's national team next coach will be? I'm hoping that it's somebody better than anybody mentioned in this episode. Take it easy, guys.
Okay, little fancy baseball. With it being the All-Star break, I'm going to focus in on players who should look to be dropping and kind of give you some things you should be looking for expanding outside of this. So first up, we're going to start with Nestor Cortez, New York Yankees starting pitcher. All right, doing a Yankee because Bobby in the comments always saying that I favor the Yankees. They are my team, but I'll also hate on them just as much. So he's owned in 84% of leagues. He should not be. He's player 284 the last month. He has 1 win, 30 Ks, a 3.90 ERA, and a 1.21 whip. Not a terrible whip, but when you break down the numbers, all of them having in worse and worse over the month, and I just don't see him bouncing back. He didn't have a good year last year, and I think he's someone you should look to dump, which brings me to a point. You got to look at them for the full season, but then also look in the last month and 2 weeks, as I said before, which brings me to the next players. Jeremy Pena, Houston Astros, shortstop. He's owned in 77% of leagues. For the last month, he's been player 415. 11 runs, 2 home runs, 15 RBIs, 1 stolen base. That is just killing you for a shortstop, and a 234 average. And finally, we're going to jump to Gavin Stone, Los Angeles Dodgers starting pitcher. He's owned in 78% of leagues. The last month, he's been player 322. He has 2 wins, 20 Ks, which is less than a K per 9, a 4.09 ERA, and a 1.32 whip. Again, these players, when you look at their season totals, don't look bad, but that is why I've said over and over again, look at the month. Look at the 2 weeks. 1 week's a little too small of a sample, but look at those 2 weeks and month samples and see those trends and drop players when you need to, especially if they're fringe players. All right, hopefully this helps. You do some good drops and ads or the All-Star break, put together and win your league.
Thank you to all those who made it to the end. If you did make it this far, please give us a like or subscribe because it really helps the channel grow. We will be in Las Vegas, and you can see the dates right over here on this side. It's going to pop up over there, and we are going to have a meetup game when we're out there and a fantasy football draft. So please come join us. Message us if you're interested. We also will be doing a fantasy football draft in Austin. We are determining the poker room that we're going to partnership with now, but we will be doing a fantasy football draft then as well in July. So please come on out and say hi. We have merch, and we look forward to meeting you all there.